recording. All right. So these two yahoos can't control their bladders and their alcohol and their drink consumption. So I've been left alone. We're going to do an impromptu podcast because for all of Jason's amazing machinery, he can't seem to figure out the simplest of things, like streaming 3 people at once and his gameplay without any lag or hitches or anything. I mean, how much is that to ask? How hard is that? I ask you, camera. As I stretch. Wake up, everyone! This is the Impromptu Never Free to Play podcast, and we're going to talk about whatever we want because Sean's a little tipsy. And Jason,
no, I'm good now. We've dragged this out long enough that I'm sober again.
Science doesn't work that way, my friend.
I'm also sober again.
No, you just literally got up and got a drink. They're going to be off tomorrow, and so they're just cutting loose.
We're just cutting loose here.
Whereas I have to go to work and watch somebody type on a screen for 8 hours. It's going to be
Wait, you're going to watch somebody type on a screen?
Yep.
Oh my God. Do you work for the NSA?
I wish. Oh, it sounds so easy. Sounds so easy. All right. So, I don't have any dotes. I don't have any notes or a doc. Jason, show us your butt.
You really want me to? No, because I'm not gonna. Because somebody might watch that. If I want to be the president one day.
I don't think it's going to stop you, man.
What? What do you think would stop me?
Nothing could stop you except, your inability to hold...
Your inability to do housekeeping.
Housekeeping.
What?
No, there's no house. No, we're not doing that. We're not doing the housekeeping.
We're not doing it, man.
We're not doing it. This is the new Never Free to Play podcast. This is the NNFTP. The NFTP.
No.
Okay. So Elden Ring was announced today, January 22nd.
Yep.
2022. And
basically, the
Dark
E3
Souls
season
game.
was kicked off today.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Summer Games Fest, Jeff Keighley. There was like two and a half hours, but I literally only jumped in at the last second just to catch that trailer. It was like perfect timing. And I was like, ooh, I'm here, internet, zeitgeist, woo. And that's all I have to say about that. You guys haven't seen the trailer, so we'll move on.
I have seen the trailer.
You did? You have?
Yes, I watched it.
When?
When you texted me about it.
You said I could have sworn you said the words, I have to watch the trailer.
And I did.
Okay, so, all right. Wait, let's talk about that. What do you guys think?
To me, it does. It very clearly looks like a Dark Souls, but done to a scale we haven't even seen a Dark Souls done to yet. So it's like an open world, a little more storyline developed Dark Souls, which I suppose shouldn't be too surprising with George R. R. Martin behind it.
Who is what, Sean? What is George R. R. Martin?
He is an author of Game of Thrones.
No. You said it like 5 minutes ago. What is he?
He's a storyteller?
Nope. You said it was mean. What was it?
Sorry, say again?
You said it was mean. You said something mean about him. What was it?
No, I think he's not a very good author, and he's slow to write.
Oh boy, is he slow to write. Can't believe he finished a video game.
Yeah, exactly. Which probably indicates that he gave them some general ideas, and they built the game off of his general ideas.
He wrote some like storyboards and then bounced.
Oh yeah, you're right. So I mean, if you want the full thing, as I said, I could write a story faster than he could.
Oh, I thought you said you could write it better than him.
I probably could.
Okay, so that's what I want to talk about.
That. Oh,
because no, and
all right, let's do this.
We need to talk about it. We need to talk about it because how many George R. R. Martin books have you read?
I read I read the first book of Song of Fire and Ice.
Okay, so we've all 3 read that then, so we can kind of use that as a baseline.
That's a rarity.
What critiques?
No, we've done this before. We have this all recorded on a stream. Why are we going to do it again?
No. Oh, okay. Are we okay? You're right.
I just wanted the sound bite.
Framed.
I just wanted the sound bite. Neither of you provided that for me, so we're going to move on to your thoughts on the Elden Ring demo, Jason. or trailer.
So here's what I found most interesting about it. There were 2 co-creators credited.
Oh,
Was
yeah?
George R. Martin. Do you remember the other?
It's probably Miyazaki, but I don't know. I didn't see that.
I was gonna say it was a Japanese name.
It's the guy behind the Soul series, something
Yep.
Miyazaki.
Okay, yeah. So what I found so interesting about the style of that trailer is it almost had this more like European Middle Earth kind of vibe going.
Are you
but
not familiar
also,
with the Dark Souls series?
I'll say, I mean, the Dark Souls have always been like European Middle Ages.
Yeah.
but I found this one had an interesting mix of the Japanese culture that I don't really recall seeing as much in the From Software games that
I
I've
only
seen.
watched
other
it
than,
once, so it's possible. But what a lot of people were saying is like, oh, they're bringing everything together. Like they're using all of the influence. They're clearly being influenced by all of their previous works to try to make like the best From Software games. So if there was a lot of like Eastern stuff from like Sekiro for an example, that would make sense.
Yes, that makes because I'm not as familiar with their works as you are. That makes perfect sense. What you just said.
Gotcha. You gonna play, Jason?
Here's the thing: if it is a cross-gen game,
It is, yeah.
I know my brother, even though he's the worst, and he has abandoned video games, and he hasn't mixed our podcast in, I don't know, about 40 episodes. I'm serious. He hasn't.
This is episode 54. He didn't have
Well,
done it since 14.
He probably hasn't done it since like episode 25, man.
I know you've been great. Birthday boy's been stepping in.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, what I was gonna say is he will probably buy the game, and from that mooching, I will probably play it that way.
That's
if
cool.
it comes to, has it been announced that it is definitely coming to PS4 and PS5?
It's cross-gen.
Okay, so
And it-
then in
and it
that
looks
case,
like
Greg will buy it.
And when you look at the game,
It does.
It doesn't look bad, but it looks like a game that was made at the peak of last gen.
Yeah.
And it looked bad on the stream, but I went back and I watched a couple seconds, really like 10, 15 seconds of the trailer again in like a regular YouTube with the high quality, and it looked a lot better that way. Yeah, I'm not going to touch it unless something happens and I lose my mind, but I won't be playing
Just
it.
mooch off of Greg.
I mean, maybe.
Would you do that for Sekiro? Because you have mentioned one.
I'll probably just buy Sekiro for $20 someday
Okay.
because it's so cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Sekiro is on my backlog of, like the short list of my backlog, but
Well, yeah, I mean, basically to answer your question, which I think is more like, does this game seem like it's up your alley?
mm-hmm.
No, because I don't have the time to dedicate to actually get good at it. Therefore I just don't think I'll enjoy it.
Are we presuming it's going to have that same kind of like super slow, deliberate, get good gameplay? I mean, I don't imagine how it couldn't, but do you think there's any chance that they shake up that formula considerably, looking at like the more open nature of the world?
I get the impression it's going to have that same gameplay with maybe a little bit more of a solid storyline, which these games have historically lacked.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, like it's still going to be like to me, it's still going to lack the power fantasy that you tend to see in a lot of, especially like Western RPGs. And so, I mean, yeah, it'll find its niche, but it's not a game that interests me.
Sure. Cool. Fun way to start off E3, though, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was nice to
definitely.
finally get news on a game that we've known about since what 2019.
At least, yeah.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, isn't that long, but we saw literally nothing on it since then. Like, this would be the first, and here's something to talk about. No leaks. You could say it was rumored, but it's literally been rumored at every major event since it was announced, and so that doesn't really count. No leaks. They got a release date that's 6 months away. That's pretty cool. Well, just like 7 months away, really, if we're going to be technical.
Yeah, but close enough.
But none of that was leaked. Nobody knew about that, at least not in wide circles.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
it makes me hopeful for the next few days, like, because I haven't heard much, and I'm trying to keep away from it. But even
Yeah, I
when
mean, they're like what leaks I have seen for E3 haven't been like, big groundbreaking type of things. So I'm
Right.
hopeful that means those things haven't leaked, and we'll actually get some big news here in the next week.
Yeah. World building. Jason, what do you want to talk about?
Mainly just the execution, because I'm kind of, I'll admit it, I haven't been an avid reader probably ever in my life, and as lame as an excuse as it is, like the books that we read in school that were fiction, I never liked, and I found them to just be kind of boring. And so I think I made this association in my mind that like I don't like fiction, and so if I were ever to read, I wanted to get something out of it. I wanted to learn something or whatever. So I just never read nonfiction, I never read fiction. Now that the audiobooks are such a huge craze, it seems like with the Audible and all the rest, I'm getting into the audiobooks, and I'm starting with Game of Thrones because I've watched it, and so like I don't know, I have a really bad mind's eye. Like I have a hard time visualizing things. So to read a book based on a series I've already seen, it gives me a lot of the visuals already built, and so I can kind of visualize this better. And it's actually, maybe that's one reason it's more entertaining to me. Point being, what was the question?
World building. What did you want to talk
World building. What I
about?
want to know about world building. One thing that I found with his books is that every character seems to have a backstory. Like every character that they mention really exists. And they reference them all the time because it's not just the lords and the royalty class, like the people, the soldiers in the army that have names. They have a whole family. They have a whole backstory. They have a whole everything. How do you keep track of all that? How do you keep track of like 100 characters in a book?
Notes.
I've never written anything. How do you do it? Do you have like maps? Like of the people and like their family trees and stuff.
Yes.
Like how's that work?
It's literally that. It's maps. It's notes. It's basically another book all to yourself that you're never gonna have like see the light of day.
So the best way I've ever seen it described, and the way that I think it works the best is you have to remember that your world is its own character, and so just as characters will kind of influence and impact other characters, your world does that. And so the key is if you have a properly and well developed world, you can drop a character and kind of pick rigmarole traits for that character, and then that character will develop within the confines of the history of your world, because they're essentially then reacting to another character.
You do see that a lot in reference to Game of Thrones, how like you said, every character is like got their own kind of personality, and so when you go to write a plot or an interaction, you think not what would this character say to this character, but what would this type of person say to this type of person, and how would they interact?
Yeah, the best point you can get whenever with a character is I'm not writing the character, I'm recording the character. So I've developed that character's backstory and therefore understand the character, and I've developed my world enough that I understand how that character's backstory would work within this world, that I'm not writing the character's story. All I'm doing is I'm dropping the character into a particular scenario and then recording what happens. And that's kind of fun, because that's when you sit there and go, I think the character is going to do A. And then you get a little bit further in the story, and then you realize, no, I'm wrong. The character is going to do B, and then you as the author then have, or author/writer have to then react to, okay, the character is not doing what I thought they're going to do. They're doing what is appropriate for their character to do. Now that I'm at that point, and it can make for some very exciting moments when it comes to writing.
It sounds
that that's super interesting to me. Like that, it kind of blows my mind, because I never thought about writing that way. I just thought
have you ever created anything? Like,
don't make me feel bad.
Like, no, it's fine because I haven't outside of like literally like a couple hours worth of thought towards something. I it's not a thing I've ever devoted, but like even in those small moments, I can extrapolate how I might, as a person with more talent, like I can theorize how this process might work. And then just as somebody who loves to like pick and analyze, and like I can kind of work backwards from there too. Like, how would they have made this thing? And you know, that's it makes perfect sense to me. Everything Sean says, stuff I've read similar. But I asked that question because I was just curious. Like, have you never sat down and tried to like write a story or create? I mean, I know you don't dungeon master for D&D.
No, yeah, and that's right.
Like when you role play. I've listened to you talk about your role play characters. You have that in you, you know, and when you do that, it's a microcosm. You're working in someone else's world, but you're using
like it's a good example of your character when we play in D&D, whether I'm running the session or whatnot, has to exist within the world I've created. Now you have an idea of what you want that character to be, but then that character kind of gets influenced by my world, which is the fact that the same way that any character influences another character, my world's going to influence what you do for a character, and it therefore it's going to push certain decisions upon you because your character is going to have to behave a certain way based upon the world that he or she exists in.
That again, it blows my mind because you're describing writing as if it's you basically playing out a D&D campaign.
It is
in your own head.
So there's a bias here, right? Like I've been playing D&D since 6th grade, so for basically going on 2 decades now. So yes, the way that I tell stories is somewhat interlinked with that. I can't promise you that's there's plenty of different ways. I'm sure there's different ways to do it, but the way that I do it is very much linked to the way that also I tell D&D stories and the way that that I've grown up doing it, which is. Yeah, I mean, you build a character, you understand that character within the world, and then you kind of watch how you play out how they react to the world. I wrote so I mean, I've written 2 novels that are unique creations. I've written a 3rd novel that's a fan fiction. That fan fiction being I used to run a Legend of Zelda roleplay for several years. And then I novelized it at one point, and what was fun was when I novelized it, I had to take certain liberties in order to make it work, and I extended some characters from the first role play I ran to the second role play that I ran, and it was fun to see. I had a moment where one of those characters did something I didn't expect them to do. And it hugely impacted the way that the story. It hugely impacted the climax. It totally changed the way that instead of having character A at the climax, I had character B at the climax, which was disconcerting on one hand because I had to readjust what I was planning on writing, but on the other hand, it was like, no, this makes sense, and it was very rewarding to then. It created for a better story, and that's the fun of storytelling is characters don't always do what you expect them to do. Because as much as you as the author are all knowing, you really don't know what's going to happen until you put those characters that you spent time developing into them. There's just too many variables to them.
That's so interesting because I hear you say that, and so I'm making so many connections in my brain with how people must use this method in art because. Like, if you ever watch interviews with actors, and when they talk about the character in third person as if they did not portray that character, and then you'll hear them say certain things about how that character would react in that situation, and you realize that so much of what must get captured and produced into a scene is likely that actor's interpretation of their character in that situation, and then to tie that back to writing and to tie that back to narrative and how people who create these games do that.
Well,
it's so
interesting nowadays because as when we talk about games, as actors and motion capture actors, are having a greater and greater role. So does your Troy Baker, does your Nolan North have a much more heavy role in actually defining the character than they probably did before, when the narrative of games were a little more light, they're a little more surface based than they used to.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cinema version I give you of that is, I remember in Avengers, Chris Evans, who plays Captain America, and so Chris Evans had kind of this image from his previous role playing Cap that, hey, I'm a super soldier. When I punch a guy, that guy goes down, and that wasn't how the director and slash writer, which was Josh Whedon, wrote the character, and they had a discussion, and it changed how several scenes played out. And so the ability to these people who potentially understand their characters better than who's kind of directing them, because they've inhabited the characters. There's a chance here that what role Troy Baker or Nolan North, or I quote them because they're kind of the two most prolific voice actors at this point. They probably have a bigger role in the storytelling than they would have had a decade or two ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Not to mention, like you said, the mocap. A lot of times the voice actor will also do the mocap, and so that's another dimension of acting that probably 20 years ago was not required of a voice actor doing work for a video game, and now it very much is. You need that physicality, that component of it, which that helps define your character. How your character moves around and reacts and behaves just with their body language around other characters is a big deal when that's visible to other people, and it helps define that character, which also then is going to influence how that character reacts in later scenes.
Yeah, and any good director will, well, I don't want to say good, but like some like to stick to the script and the scene as it's exactly as it's planned, but most of them expect and will work with the actor. Improv isn't the right word, except in cases where there actually is improv, but for the most part, that's not what's happening.
Like they're interpreting.
Right, interpretations, the scene changes, things morph. I don't know, maybe they go at it in a completely different direction, and they do that too. Like let's do it this way. Okay, now let's do it completely differently, but still also the same.
Yeah, because let's face it, you can have the same exact dialogue, but deliver with different body language and deliver with different tones, right. And it's going to completely change how it lands, and therefore depending upon what you go for, and depending upon which one strikes the writers and the director and the actor, it's going to change which one you decide to pick, and then obviously that'll cascade throughout the rest of the storyline.
For sure.
I've heard that for Christopher Walken, they at least do 4 takes of every scene, so it's like, how are you doing? How are you doing? How are you doing? How are you doing? So.
Yeah, I think
that sounds like a lot of time.
Not that either of you have played BioShock Infinite, but there's several very there's a scene in BioShock Infinite where Booker picks up a guitar and he plays a little bit of song, and then Elizabeth sings a song. And it's interesting because the song that they picked had a particular emotional weight for the actress whose name escapes me right now, who played Elizabeth. And you can hear that emotion coming out, and therefore it kind of changed what that song meant within the game, and therefore what it means for the rest of the storyline. I mean, it to me it adds a bit of spontaneity, which can be frustrating from someone who's trying to tell a set story, but also it's one of the things that has that has brought gaming into its own unique form of storytelling and elevate it to something that it can be really, really impressive at times.
Absolutely. I mean, you think about like these people who build their own worlds. There's a terminology in filmmaking that's like continuity, right? And so essentially that just means you're following the rules that you've set for yourself. You're in like occurrences within your world, but also the rules of the world. And we've talked about that a lot. So that's continuity. Well, video game creators kind of have the same issue. It's the way that they catch themselves, the way that they will, the lengths that they'll go through in some cases to follow the rules of their own universe kind of just blow my mind that they've even thought to do that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
imagine
absolutely.
the added level of interactivity changes everything in a way that you can't even fathom with other, mediums like,
Yeah.
Well,
shows.
Absolutely.
there's
So
such. I mean, not to say that movies don't see characters go through arcs. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
the arc is one of the key components of storytelling. But gaming is so dependent, and especially in your RPGs, upon the I'm growing, the power curve. Your character grows stronger and stronger as you grow out, and so trying to do that, whether it's a Skyrim or a JRPG, or I mean even a game like The Last of Us and Uncharted, where I mean you gain new abilities and new items and all that make your character more powerful throughout, and so that's its own difficulty for storytelling that goes beyond just
Absolutely.
the way that the character behaves. It's but you know Skyrim, you go from a prisoner to the literal dragonborn, which means you are part god. And also, if you play, if you play it on long report, you basically went from level 1 to like level 80. And at level 80, you're literally unstoppable in Skyrim. You literally laugh off the vast majority of people attacking you because it means nothing. And so the way you work with that in gaming is an additional part that this the writers and storytellers of games have to deal with that doesn't show up in movies, where they have complete control over the power level of their characters.
Right.
I had something to add. You mentioned like world building in The Last of Us Part 2, or you said The Last of Us, but in The Last of Us Part 2, which is interesting. So the main character, or one of the main characters, Joel, plays a song on the guitar. And it's in The Last of Us Part 2, which is a certain amount of time in the future from when the first one took place. The first one took place, and it showed the whole decline of humanity, and like when the incident happens, when zombies came about, blah blah blah. So interesting is in Part 2, which is like it was like 20 years in the future or whatever from the first one, or I mean, not that much, but whatever.
Yeah,
the point
but,
is,
but some amount of time jumped in the future.
right. Joel played a song that was a Pearl Jam song, and people tried to go back and contest, hey, the world collapsed in 2004 in The Last of Us Part 1. How would Joel have known that song? And apparently, the creator said, well, we actually thought about that. The world collapsed in year X. I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was 2008, whatever.
Sure.
Yeah, it's
Apparently,
later.
Pearl Jam had not officially released that song on an album, but there was a YouTube video of him playing it live in a bar the year before it came out on an album. So Joel could have learned it from the YouTube video, not from the official release of the song. That's like the minute detail that they went into when they made that game.
In our lifetimes, I mean, you're looking at games being from very, very basic things to the minutia and the level of detail they're willing to go through in their storylines. I mean, it has been for me, and I've really enjoyed it. I'm sure many people besides me have, but it's been really fun to see video games really develop their storytelling. Their status as a storytelling medium, because video games tell a story, and obviously with that interactive aspect in a unique way. There's some relations, especially when you're talking about cutscenes and whatnot to novels or movies or what have you. But it's been very enjoyable to watch video games really grow as their own medium, and not just say like, oh yeah, we're kind of stealing a little bit from these other ones and then throwing in shooting segments, which is kind of how they were purveyed for the earlier periods of our lives.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, drink break.
No, not drink break. I swear, if you get up, I'm ending it.
Why?
Because
it's going to take.
Because it's taking us so long to get to
What's
this point.
wrong with you? Stop drinking so much. Whatever it is,
what you're talking
water,
about.
alcohol, I don't care. But like, you can't. How can you need so many drinks?
I
Is he gone? Did he leave?
I did not leave because I did not want you to end it.
I was not going to actually end it.
what are we doing next here? Obviously, we got on storytelling, and
right?
I could
It
do
wasn't
that
really
forever,
world
but-
building.
I
It
love
was-
that. That's what I wanted to. That's the exact conversation I wanted to have.
Cool.
Jason wanted to gush about how he loves the creative process.
Is there more you want to talk about? Because like, I mean, I'll talk about this all night. I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously, like, yes, I'm not a published author, but I've spent between D&D and writing novels, I've spent a long time thinking about this type of stuff.
Where can I get these novels?
What? No.
My novels?
Sean's novels.
I'll send you my novels.
Can you do an audiobook?
I was about to say he's not going to read them. He's going to watch it.
No, I don't have time. I'm sorry.
What do you mean you don't have time? This is
Well,
your passion.
do you want me to make all the half the content for this station and run D&D or not?
You have all day off tomorrow. You can't record yourself talking through your whole book.
No, I have to plan a Disney staycation for my wife the day after.
No, hold on. Is this staycation, is it going to be in VR, did I hear?
No, it's not going to be in VR. He doesn't have VR.
Well, that's why I was confused. How do you do a Disney? All I heard is Disney staycation, Minecraft, and like
Sean,
Disney,
why don't you tell us about what you will be playing?
Okay, so
wait, is this part of the staycation?
yes.
Okay.
So my wife and I found out a while back via Achievement Hunter, thanks to Achievement Hunter, that there is a Minecraft server called MC Parks, and so MC Parks has quite a few theme parks. But notably, they have the Disney World, the 4 Disney World parks, so Magic Kingdom, Hollywood Studios, Epcot, and Animal Kingdom. And so a thing my wife and I talked about when COVID was going on, because we wanted to go to Disney, and obviously that wasn't really a great option. With with me having a limited travel and all that, was, hey, we should do this thing exists. We could do a Disney staycation where we could, I can make some of the food that we normally have, and we can make some of the drinks that we would drink at Epcot and the other parks, and we'll go experience Disney. And so have finally decided to do that. And so these are Minecraft, a Minecraft server that has recreated 1-to-1 scale Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Hollywood Studios, and Animal Kingdom. And not all the rides are available. A very large percentage of rides where you can literally like hop on the rides and they've recorded the audio from the rides or the show or what have you, or just different parts of the park. So as you ride through it, it plays the same stuff you'd be hearing if you were experiencing Disney. So
holy cow! We're
going to log into the server and I'm going to run around. I'm basically down because I gotta get Minecraft on my laptop because it won't work for the Xbox, so I gotta pay the $20 or whatnot to get Minecraft on my laptop. We're gonna log into the server, and we're gonna do a day where we've got some food set aside and drinks set aside, and we're gonna do a Walt Disney World staycation.
Now, why do you have to pay $20 for it?
I've got to buy Minecraft on the computer. I own Minecraft on the Xbox, but the Xbox doesn't let me log into custom servers.
But why do you have to purchase it on PC? Shouldn't it be on Game Pass?
It's not, apparently.
What?
Yeah,
I was so mad about
ridiculous.
this.
Like Minecraft Dungeons is on Game Pass, and Minecraft the normal version is on console, but you can't play Minecraft the normal version on PC via Game Pass, which is asinine because who owns Mojang? Microsoft owns Mojang. So I'm upset about that. But
Philly Spencer, friend of the show,
too.
my friend. Your big show is coming up on what I think it's Sunday. They go for E3.
yeah, I think so.
You can't say a word until you've made sure that we know that Microsoft will be bringing Minecraft to PC on Xbox Game Pass. Otherwise, all of your announcements will fall flat. Halo Infinite will die an early death if you don't announce Minecraft for Game Pass on PC.
Unless you tell me like Avowed is coming out the next day.
Nope. Also,
Sean will have already had to pay for Minecraft on the PC by this point.
Well, some people have to sacrifice themselves. Okay.
Okay.
We're
Thanks,
willing to
Thanos.
sacrifice Sean.
And are you making content out of this, or are you just trying to actually just have a nice time by yourself?
I might, yeah. At this point, but the goal is to have a nice, nice enjoyable experience. With my
Sean
life.
is
Will
not
I
allowed to
maybe
be-
later go and chill for the MC Parks YouTube channel and link with them? Maybe. I mean, they've only got which just surprises me. They only got several thousand followers. Which is surprising to me because they're apparently the most accurate recreation of the Disney parks out there. But it may also explain why Disney hasn't cracked down on them yet because they're just not popular enough. But
We will be.
You
They're
said
going to
get
ban
into
us
the
for even
server.
talking about this.
Are there going to be other people walking around? Is it a
Yeah.
public? Cool.
Yeah,
Do you have to stand in line though? Because that would be awesome.
maybe. I don't know. I haven't been on there yet.
I hope you do, because
No,
I
you can
feel
fight
like
your way to the front.
if you don't have to stand in line, then there's no point. Like, then they didn't even accurately recreate it.
What's great is like they've recreated all the shops. So like, you know, when you get off Space Mountain, it drops you, like, you exit the ride into the space, you know, the shop outside of Space Mountain there at Magic Kingdom, and it has like the Star Wars stuff and whatnot that they would normally sell in the shop at Space Mountain. So
That's wild.
now
Sean, you're not
I don't know
allowed-
how you get dollars in this world.
That's
I
a good
think
question.
from what I've seen, I think as you ride more, like every time you ride a ride and log in, you know, for like a unique instance, you accrue credits. So
I feel like they should make a fast pass system so like you come off of a ride, you can go get a fast pass, but then that's going to give you a certain time, and then you can go to the shops while you're waiting.
Sean, you're not allowed to make any more content until Jason makes some content.
I'm working on it. I got 2 things in the queue that I have to edit,
But-
Sure,
and I
that's
haven't
fine.
had time.
That's all.
but Final Fantasy VII, I can't like I'm.
Well, you got a
I'm
week.
one episode away from recording more Final Fantasy VII episodes than Jason, and therefore, you
No,
know,
it's cursed.
keeping Crimson Karma happy.
No, it's cursed. We can never
Habba.
get past that point.
That'd be awesome. Do it.
No, I'm going to record.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes, because this isn't a rule I made up. This is a universal truth.
It's a curse. It's not a truth.
What?
It's a curse.
What are you working on, Jason?
I'm trying to edit our Deep Rock Galactic footage from my birthday stream,
Yeah.
and and then also Memorial Day weekend, my brother came down and we recorded some phasmophobia. Yeah, I recorded that with him. That's cool. There's some good jump scares in that actually legitimately got me, which I'm sure will end up on TikTok. So
Cool.
Which segues us into Karch. What have you been playing?
Not a whole lot of new stuff. It's been a busy week and my brain's been fried. I did start a playthrough of Chrono Trigger. I don't think I had started that since we last podcasted, but I
Nope.
did start the playthrough. I'm on episode 2 because the first episode was a stream that didn't work out because none of my mic was captured, and so I'm just going to record it and post it like Sean does. I'm not streaming it. It's too much work. But I'm loving it. Chrono Trigger is chill, and I wish I could play it just a little bit longer. I'm gonna try to do slightly longer episodes from now on, because I don't want to take
You don't-
2/3 of the
You don't want
year.
to spend a year beating the game like I probably will be, as Katie and I pound our way through Final Fantasy VII.
that'll be worth it, though.
That will be worth it. Exactly. That's way funnier. Mine's okay. And then let's see. I beat Mass Effect
Part 1.
Yep.
Part
Me
1.
too.
Mass
Nice.
Effect was great. I started Mass Effect 2, and it's a very jarring change. People love this game, and I can see why, but I can't see why they love it for the combat. And maybe, I don't think they streamlined it that much, but maybe they did with the Legendary Edition, but one just felt
I was gonna
better.
say there could have been some major improvements that we're not
It's
experiencing.
possible, but I just don't think so, because it's not like they added skills. Like it's less like the nitty gritty mechanics of it and more the play style. So I picked the
Yeah.
Vanguard, who's supposed to be a biotic soldier mix, who's the very definition of in the fray, kind of like the closest that you can get to a warrior in this kind of setting. And then I picked the same thing, I'm continuing the playthrough, and I picked Vanguard, but they've simplified the way that skills work a lot, and
Yeah.
the skills you have just aren't like, you get a charge, which okay, cool. You like basically do like a sort of mini teleport and you knock the enemy down, but it's just one enemy, and now you're where the enemies are, and now they can all shoot at you, and it's like, what was the point of this ability? Why would I ever use this? And like every time you think that the last enemy is there, unless a cutscene plays immediately afterward, that's not the last enemy. There's more coming almost every time. And so there's this enormous reliance on the cover system, which technically existed in 1, but they really lean into in this game. And,
Yeah.
you know, granted, I put it on veteran at the beginning, and I might bump it down. Maybe that's the problem. I don't know, but I just
Probably.
want my barrier skill back. They took it away from me, which basically just gave me a really beefy shield. And I hate they added ammo. They added ammo instead of the overheat, where you could use your gun infinitely, but if you use it too frequently in a span of time, it would overheat, and then you'd have to wait. I don't know, 3-5 seconds.
And Sean hates that in particular because
It's a violation of the rules of the universe they established in the first game.
which goes back to story building, and
Yep.
that's the type of thing
I
that
don't think
makes
it's a
people mad.
violation of the rules. I think it's they explain it immediately. They say
They do.
because we don't want it to overheat, we put in these heat sinks, and then
Which then you eject and put a new heat sink in, so
Yeah.
you never have to overheat.
and
Yeah,
the
but
ammo's plentiful, but you're not going to go get that ammo
just-
until you've
it's just the fact it's the reload breaks up the flow of combat that you're used to, which is already broken up because you can tell so Mass Effect 1, while it was a cover based shooter, was very very much it was more of an RPG than a cover based shooter, and so your
Right.
abilities were what dominated combat. Mass Effect 2 is still it shifted that, whereas I've got abilities, but the important kind of dominating part of combat is the shooting and the cover based the cover based aspect of it, and that's just
But it's not even good.
And I think you're the same with Cars. It's not it's that's just not a good way. I've played Gears 1 through 3, and don't get me wrong, I had fun playing Gears 1 through 3, which is another cover based third person shooter, but the cover based aspect's never fun. And so you had a system where you're right, in Mass Effect 1, I could kick on my barrier and pull up my shotgun and wade into enemies and feel awesome and strong and in combat fairly quickly. And now combat is tedious because I've got to stay in cover because I just don't have a good way to end combat anymore. And because of the fact that it's so cover based, the shotgun is almost not nearly as it's almost a much less viable weapon.
it's kind of useless. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's just
And then enemies just come
I remember
at
this
you. They just charge you. There's they don't care, and that's the other thing. So okay, you got a cover based shooter, but they just violate the cover by running at you. I'm where am I?
Yeah.
And then you can't. There's no way to. You can't snap and turn around.
Which they did in Mass Effect 1, but when you had things like throw and lift and all that, you could counter it. And now it's I don't have the abilities to counter several enemies charging me anymore I
Right.
used to.
Basically, you have to solve the puzzle. I should have taken down this squad first instead of this one guy over here. I got tricked into basically tanking. They tanked my shots, and then they came and they shot me. And that's another thing. They took away your radar. You used to have a radar. Well, okay, I take that back. It's still there, but it's not there all the time. So in the middle of combat,
Right.
while everything's moving and grooving, there is no radar that shows you little red dots, in case your enemy's sneaking up behind you. It is there when you pause the game real quick to change out your weapons, because the game will stop while you're changing out weapons and abilities. The radar
Which
shows
again
up.
just breaks up the flow of combat.
It's so stupid, but at least I know it's
Yeah.
there now, so I can use it. But man, I was it's just going straight from 1 to 2 it's been rough.
Jarring.
However, there is a lot of good. It looks better. The lighting's really good. My shepherd looks a little goofy. I had some red stubble. I have red hair. What hair I do have.
This frustrated me because a big thing that BioWare had advertised was, hey, we've used the same character creator for all 3 games in Legendary, so your character will look the same. And I had the same issue. It's no, they don't. My character is changing between games, and not super noticeably, but enough where it's no, that's
Yeah.
not how I made them look now, and now they look weird and awkward.
Yeah, after 17 hours with the character, I know every little detail of his dumb little face, and now I can see the dumb little details that are wrong. And most egregiously for me is I had 5 o'clock shadow basically, but it was red hair. But the 5 o'clock shadow is specifically a little bit duller than the hair on my head. Except now they're the same color, and it looks like someone took neon paint, and just gave me this real slight dusting on my face. but I wasn't
Yeah.
willing to redo the character because it gives you the option. You can go ahead and go through the character creation process again, but I didn't want to do that because I'm lazy. So,
Well, and it's annoying because like if the redoing your character face, it's not like, oh, let me import. It doesn't give you the option to import my previous character and just make
and
some
then
slight
modify.
modifications.
Exactly.
You have to build them from scratch. And
So
so like
dumb.
I spent like an hour trying, and I still came up short, like trying to recreate my previous character with just a few modifications so that they looked okay in the Mass Effect 2 graphics. It was just frustrating.
Yeah. The quest structure is much better though.
Yeah.
Like I haven't even gotten to the main story yet. I mean, technically I have because the beginning is basically go find new crewmates. You're you know, I won't spoil it, but basically you join up with a non-military organization. And they're like, "Hey, here's a bunch of dossiers. Go find these people that we've pinned that can help you on this mission that we're going to, you know, be co-joining." And so that's all I'm doing right now. I'm going and finding all the people they asked me to find. I haven't actually made any progress on the story and the villain and the mission at large. But there comes another flaw. Like you're not with the military anymore, which sucks for me. And because there's something really interesting about the way that they played the first game, because like you are Commander Shepard, Commander. Yep. No matter how nice you are, no matter how mean you are, no matter how many Paragon or Renegade points you have, you are a military man or woman, and that doesn't change. Like you can try to not be, like you don't get to choose to not be a military man. Like right. All of your choices, the entire plot, like everything centers around the fact that you are a soldier, and now you're not in the military anymore. Just all of a sudden. And you just don't seem to care that much. And there's not a lot of options to make me feel like, no, I need to get out of this situation as soon as possible so I can rejoin it's weird. And but people loved it. I don't understand how people loved the first one so much and then loved this one. I can understand liking it, especially if you didn't really love the first one. But people loved the first one, and then they come and they play the second game and they love it more.
Well, you'll find
really
so
confused.
What the second one does well from my recollection before is you're gonna find all, because there's a much larger crew that you pick up in the second game, the first game, and it's the development and the side quests that you and the time you get to spend with that crew is much all of that is much better done than the first game. So
for sure.
You feel much more part of a crew than you do in the first game, and that's very nice. But you're right. You and I were talking earlier today or yesterday that it does almost in some ways feel like BioWare originally started writing this game with the with the intent of the second game wasn't going to have you playing Shepard.
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah,
because you almost don't play like Shepard for a lot of time, and then they changed their mind at one point, which is why you're missing that. Like, no, I want my old life back. Like you never get that. Like, no, what like. I understand time has passed, but I want my old life back, and what happened to that, and why can't I just go? You never you're right. You miss kind of all those choices that you would have thought a character would have had to that, and it is especially playing them back to back as opposed to a couple years apart, particularly jarring.
Yeah. But I do love the quests so far. Like you said, they are more fleshed out. Every side quest has been meaningful in that it's been it's just been this, even if it was short and sweet, it had a little story to itself. And maybe that kind of also fed back into the main quest story, or maybe it didn't. But so many Mass Effect ones were here's a distress signal on a planet, go into a building that is literally pound for pound, square inch.
It's literally identical to other buildings.
Every
and
single
by the way,
building,
the Mako being dropped on the planet is an identical, repeatable cutscene.
Right, and so those got old fast, and I only did a handful of them by the end. But I'm enjoying it. I'm taking a break to play the other game I've been playing. I'll only talk about it real quick, which is I'm gonna play through Final Fantasy VII Remake, so that I can get to the intermission grade thing, the Yuffie DLC. But just even playing for an hour today, The beginning of that game is so, and I didn't start it. I had already started a file a couple months ago when Sean had started playing, but then he started playing so fast I couldn't keep up.
It was a good game.
But the first half is so much fun, and the stuff I'm enjoying the most is the stuff that wasn't in the original at all, like the Biggs Jesse Wedge trip up to the top of the plate, and then you go ahead and you fight that Roche guy. I love that Roche guy. I'm so sad that he's not anymore.
On the motorcycles, and then he shows up again at when you're trying to escape the armory.
Yeah, and you fight him, and it's so much fun. He's such a cool character, but in like the cheesiest way. And I hope he's in the second one. I hope him and a couple other characters show up later, because they kind of telegraph that they might, and I don't see why you would put so much energy into them if they're not going to. But yeah, I'm gonna play through that. Probably don't bump that difficulty down to easy, so I can just kind of blast through the story and then play the Yuffie stuff.
John, what have you been playing?
Me?
Yeah.
So like Karch, I've been playing Mass Effect 1, and I beat Mass Effect 1. If you've been watching the channel, obviously, my wife Katie and I have been playing through Final Fantasy VII. That has been a lot of fun. It's been interesting because I honestly don't. I remember less of that game than I thought I did. There's a lot of parts of that game where where the comparable scene playing through it and Final Fantasy in the remake, where I was like, oh, this must be like something, that just kind of fleshed out. No, it's in there. It's in there in a very basic, small sense, but it's in there. And I was like, nope, don't remember. Which is probably tribute to the fact that I played this game on a PS1 when, I don't know, Karch, we were in middle school? Maybe? Probably middle school?
Remind me, where did you get this PlayStation?
I borrowed the PlayStation from Karch.
And then what happened?
I beat Final Fantasy VII.
In respect that you beat it before Karch?
Yes, I 100% beat Final Fantasy VII before Karch. There's a little bit more to it to that, but yes.
No, that's pretty much it.
I think it's insane.
No, because I tried to beat it. I died fighting Sephiroth. I gave up. Gave you back the PS1. You and I decided, some months later when I was spending the night at your house because we were young and that's what we did when we were younger. We were going to start Final Fantasy VII. You went to the bathroom. I loaded up my save profile, and while you were taking a shower, I got back to Sephiroth, started fighting him, and I beat him right after you got out of the shower.
Wait, hold on.
You missed Sean fighting.
Hold on. So Sean loaded up his old file
at my house.
Yes.
At
his house.
Okay, I'm remembering this now. I can't believe
I beat it at his house in front of him.
What a cherished memory we've just created.
Yeah.
Yes!
But yeah, besides that, I'm not playing too much. Obviously, I've been playing Outward. I didn't stream that this week. I just had life got in the way. I really like Outward. I'm excited to it. I got to figure out a way to stream it so you guys aren't stuck watching me doing inventory management the whole time. But I'm excited to play that game. But yeah, so those are kind of the games that I'm playing right now.
Cool. Jason, you talked about what you were playing earlier. Do you want to elaborate on that at all? Or
I did talk about it a bit on our Stardew stream, but I will say that Phasmophobia is really cool. And then I played another game called Devour last night with Tyler and some other people. Devour is really a fun multiplayer game, and it was only $5. This game came out in January of this year, and is only $5.99 on Steam. And if you have 3 other friends, including yourself, to make 4, go spend $5 on Devour. That was some of the most fun I've had with a multiplayer game in a while, and I do enjoy a good multiplayer game.
It's a little rough because clearly, as this podcast shows, I only have 2 friends. So you've canceled me out of this game.
I apologize. We could pull some others in. They would just have to acquire the hardware to do so. But this is a pretty indie-looking game in terms of 3D games. Despite that, the environments look pretty realistic. It's just that the assets and other, your hands and stuff looks a little polygonal, but 2021 indie polygonal. So it looks really good. It's not PT, but it looks really good. And the object of the game is you're dropped into a map. You're at a sacrificial pit. and there are 10 animals in the environment that you have to go find while avoiding being killed by a demon. So if you can sacrifice those 10 animals then before the demon kills your entire party, then you win.
Wait, so like you're sacrificing animals. So are you the bad guy or is the demon the bad guy?
Well, the
Nobody's
demon's
bad
trying to
guys.
kill
They're
us.
just animals. They're just animals. We're not that kind of podcast.
All right.
Yeah, this is Wiccan. Pretend you're Wiccan. Okay, so the cool thing is in the environment
Pretending
there
I'm
are,
Ashitaka.
there are 10 animals. On the first level, they're goats. You have to go in the house, find the straw, find the goat with your flashlight, and once you find the goat, throw the straw on the ground. Back away, let the goat eat. As the goat's eating, pick up the goat. Then take the goat to the sacrificial pit.
What's
All
the
the
premise
while
of you guys being
a-
dropped into this pit?
I didn't watch the opening cutscene. That's not important. What's important
Super
is
important.
you have a flashlight. Your only offensive weapon is a UV flashlight that you can activate using right click. That has a certain amount of fuel.
Charge.
If charge, if you
No,
will.
that is gas.
And-
It's just pouring it into the.
And if an enemy comes up to you, the minions can be burnt to death with the UV flashlight. The big lady who's gonna kill you can only be like momentarily frozen.
Is someone playing the big bad?
No, nobody's.
Okay.
It's AI
so
playing
it's
the big
not,
bad.
it's not like because when you first described this, it sounded very similar to like Dead by Daylight. But Dead by
No.
Daylight, one of the players is playing the big bad.
It's not asymmetrical like that, or
Okay.
that Freddy Krueger or Jason
The
slasher.
Jason game. Yeah.
It's just
Yeah,
co-op.
it's not like any of those. This one's just AI. It's 4 people versus the AI. But the crazy thing is, you can see a 3D model of this giant demon woman, but when she kills you, she grabs your face and she like pops up on your screen and screams bloody murder and then drags you off to an unknown location on the map. Then you have to use context clues to figure out where you are on the map, which level of the map you are, and where exactly you are in relation to the sacrificial pit. Then your teammates have to find a med kit, come to you, and revive you. You can
nice.
only hold one object at a time. So if you have a goat in your hand and you need to reheal a party member, then you have to drop the goat, and then the goat will run off. And every time you sacrifice a goat, it ramps up the difficulty level. So our strategy was to have every party member get 4 goats. Then we all take them to the sacrificial pit where we have stocked the fuel to burn the goats. Then we burn 4 at a time. Now we're on the 4th level of difficulty. Now we'll try to get at least 3 more or 2 more, and we'll go burn those in a bulk. So anyway, it was a lot of fun. I wish we had recorded it, but it probably wouldn't have been appropriate for our channel.
Yeah. That actually, you talk about the context because that actually is one of my favorite aspects of Outward, and is something I'll have to try to find next time I mod Skyrim. Was I enjoy the fact that game doesn't tell you where you are on the map, and you have to. It gives you a map, but you have to navigate via landmarks like you would in real life, and that's been a fun aspect of that game.
Definitely pros and cons to that in terms of, well, the pro immersion, but like con, you're
I
gonna
say certainly in the game you're playing that it certainly ramps up the difficulty of people having to try to track you down, while presumably the big bad is also hunting the survivors and trying to
and
kill
that's the
them.
thing. If you're dead, you're not dead. You can see around you. You can crawl at a very slow pace, and you can see the big bad. And so you could be like, I'm on the 3rd floor, but do not come up here. The big bad's right there. Like, do not come up here. And you can just, it's fun. I love those games where like communication's key, and you have to have a strategy, and you have to execute that strategy. And it's a lot of fun.
That's what you do at work. What you really love is work.
Shut up.
No. Stop loving work so much. Stop process engineering.
That is true. I do like process engineering outside of work.
You are
Guys,
an industrial
shh,
engineer
shh,
at the end of the
shh,
day.
Stop talking. Hold on. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
That's right. That's our new motto. Welcome to Never Free to Play.
Of course I'll cut it. That's why I made you guys shush for a second.
Write that timestamp down.
I don't need to write the timestamp down. I'm probably going to drag my feet on record. I'm putting this episode together.
That's
then I'll
fine,
just
because
never
I'll probably
do it.
drag my feet on getting it to you. I don't know when I'm going to edit. I'm supposed to leave my house tomorrow at like 10 a.m. and then I won't be back till Sunday night. So
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I was looking at memes from Aaron.
memes. Oh, top 10 trends. You guys want to do top 10 trends?
I absolutely do not.
Okay.
No.
Ratchet and
All right,
Clank
that's
came
fine.
out 7 minutes ago.
You need to get on that, dude. Write that down.
Yeah.
By the way,
No.
I was pantomiming both of you during your Mass Effect talk, so that could be good B-roll.
Pantomiming us?
Yeah, on the left side of the mic it was Karch, and when Sean talked, I was on the right side of the mic, and I used
okay.
different gestures, and I just moved my mouth and pretended I was you.
You were incredibly quiet, so I was curious what you were
Yeah,
doing.
yeah, I was pantomiming.
Pantomiming.
Yeah.
Is it pantomime?
Are we gonna-
Pantomime.
Are we gonna ad hoc a topic of the show?
No, it's too late for that.
Yeah, we are. I'm
No,
gonna
we're
go to a drink.
not.
We're gonna ad hoc
No,
on topics
we're
of the
not- we're not
show.
doing it.
I'm gonna do an outro right now. Hold on. All right, that's all we have for you today. I love this podcast. I love YouTube, and I love YouTube and effers.
Did you just say YouTube?
Hold on. Hold on. What's the sign now? I don't have it up in front of me. I love this.
I love this podcast.
Okay.
I love
I love video games.
what's it? I love
Video
video games,
games.
and I love you two lovely NFers.
Okay, hold on. Hold on. Ooh. Hold on.
Hold
Oh,
on.
this is
Hold
gonna-
on. I'm going to put that on your tombstone.
we used to be professional. No, his tombstone is no. Like I wrote down how to do this.
That's true. You're right. No, it's going to be hold
Okay.
on. I wrote how not yet. Wait, didn't you just say that?
Okay.
We used to be professionals. There was a brief couple-month period there where we knew what we were doing.
No. We only it just shows us that the entire house of cards is being held up by a document. If we don't have a document, we don't have anything.
I don't know,
Doc.
man. I think this has been great.
It was.
Because that's all we have for you today. I love video games. I love this podcast. And I love you two lovely NFers. That's all we have for you this week. Have a fantastic week. We will try, but we are never free to play. I don't like this as my birthday cast. I think we're gonna have to reschedule it. I don't think you guys treated me very.
We had a plan
birthday-like.
for your birthday cast, and you couldn't make it work.